Hello friends, welcome back. In this video we'll talk about Angular. You might have heard about Angular, right? Or maybe you are using these days. It is one of the hot technology in the industry. Right, so in this video we'll talk about Angular. I'll give you all the details that you need to know to understand what exactly Angular is. Alright, so that being said, let's begin the video. Now, the very first thing, Angular is product of Google, right? So if it is from a giant company, obviously it has got lots of capabilities, right? So the very first thing is Angular is product of Google. Now it's open source, but yeah, it was introduced by Google only. All right. Now, what exactly Angular is? So Angular is a framework. The way you have frameworks in Java, right? JSF, you have a Spring framework, you have Hibernate, right? Similarly, Angular is also a framework. To be more precise, so Angular is a component-based framework. To design web applications, you can use Angular to design mobile and desktop applications as well. All right. Now, the important thing, Angular is based on Typescript. Alright. Now guys, as I just said, Angular is a component-based framework. So you might have played this particular game, right? It's called Jigsaw Puzzle, where you have broken pieces, right? And then you need to align, you need to put those pieces together to form a face or to form a picture, right guys? So same way, Angular is a component-based framework where you create multiple components and you put those components together to form the UI. Let me give an example. For example, you have a module, say login module. Now your login module can have sign in page, can have sign up, can have forgot password, right? So basically when you put all these three components together, it becomes a module, right? So you can think of sign in, sign up and forget password itself is a component. So for example, you have sign in page, right? Now you can have multiple components to design that sign in page itself. You can have one component, let's call it header. You can have another component, let's call it footer. And then you can have your main content page, right? You can design a small component and then you can reuse those components to build your application. All right, guys. Now, Angular is based on Typescript, right? So basically the underlying technology that is being used is called Typescript. Now, what is Typescript? Typescript is a superset of JavaScript, right? So Typescript is built on top of JavaScript. So basically your Typescript has got all the features of JavaScript. On top of that, some unique features as well, right? And Typescript files are saved with the extension .ts, right? You got it? All right, guys. Now here, so Typescript is based on JavaScript, right? And Angular is based on Typescript. Simple. All right. Next is, what is Node.js? So Node.js is a JavaScript runtime environment. For example, if you have Java code, right, you need to have JRE, Java runtime environment, to run your Java code, correct? Exactly in the same fashion, to run your JavaScript code, we have a JavaScript runtime environment called Node.js. So Node.js is a JavaScript runtime environment. All right, guys. Now you can say that you have never used any JavaScript runtime environment to run your JavaScript code, right? Have you? The answer is no. We don't install any JavaScript runtime environment to run our JavaScript code. Why? Because browsers are enough capable to run the JavaScript code. What I mean by this, every single browser has got its own JavaScript engine inbuilt. For example, if I talk about Chrome, Chrome has got its own JavaScript engine called V8. Okay. Internet Explorer has its own JavaScript engine called Chakra. Mozilla has got its own called SpiderMonkey, right? So because your browser itself has got the JavaScript engine, that's why we don't explicitly install the JavaScript engine in our system. But now here we are talking about a framework. Angular is a framework. You are going to have multiple .ts files, multiple TypeScript files, right? So you need to have a runtime environment. So that runtime environment is provided by Node.js, right? So you need to understand that Node.js is a JavaScript runtime environment and it is based on Google Chrome's V8 engine. Let's move. So Node.js is a JavaScript runtime environment and it is based on Google Chrome's V8 engine. All right. Now the next is, what is NPM? NPM is called Node Package Manager. So NPM is a package manager to download all the libraries and dependencies for your project. So Node Package Manager is a kind of a utility or a tool to download all the dependencies required for your application. Alright guys, another important point, you don't go and explicitly install NPM. NPM comes with Node.js by default. You don't have to install it separately. Alright guys, now little bit about the history. So the very first release of Angular was called AngularJS. The next version of AngularJS was called Angular only. They removed JS. In every 6 months you will see a new version. So new version means there is going to be more improvements or more features, right? You will see Angular 10, Angular 11, Angular 12, right? Now, what is the difference between AngularJS and Angular? So there is a lot. They completely rewrite the entire framework and they introduce the rewritten code or the rewritten framework as Angular. If we talk about the similarities, you will find less. If you talk about the differences, you will find more, right? So AngularJS is also a product of Google, but that was the very first release. After that, Google modified the code. They changed the code, the framework completely, and they introduced it as Angular. Just Angular. All right. Thank you for watching.